Hello, everybody. I'm going to share a couple of posts this week about organizational change. This is a passion of mine. I've been a lead pastor for about 10 years at the same congregation. We're a 106-year-old church. Um, and so a lot of this has been kind of revitalization and just um, taking a well-established church and kind of giving fresh vision and fresh life. And so going from a very aging congregation about 10 years ago to a much more vibrant and younger congregation today is what we've gotten to be a part of, and the leadership that I've been able to experience here at First Church of God in Pryor, Oklahoma. And so organizational change has been a big part of my leadership experience and practice, and kind of trying to work through some of what that looks like. And even a couple years ago, we had kind of moved from a church that was running around an average weekly attendance of about 220 to 240, and suddenly we were running about 340 to 350. And so we had grown by nearly an average of 100 people a week, and we were serving a lot more people than that. And so it was a matter of recognizing that some of our systems, some of our organizational things that were more behind the scenes kind of stuff, were becoming antiquated. Let me give an analogy of what that looks like. A lot of times, let's just say that there's a new area of town and you're building up different commercial entities along this roadway. And so you've got some new restaurants that people want to come to and frequent and they like. And so they're starting to there's more traffic that's coming to shop at certain stores or to go to a theater or to eat at some new restaurants. And so you've got good commercial entities, you've got things that are drawing people, are connecting with people, but the 2-lane road that used to service everything in that block just fine no longer is sufficient. And so if there's too many traffic jams or the infrastructure begins to break down because it's too well traveled, guess what? The commercial entities are going to suffer. And so that's kind of a very consumeristic analogy, though, of what we were seeing happening here at First Church of God, that we had developed some really great effective ministries, revitalized our family ministries, our children's ministry, um, different things with our care ministries and recovery type ministries that were really connecting with people. And so people were coming, but some of our underlying organizational infrastructure wasn't holding up anymore. And we knew we were letting people fall between the cracks, that we were stunting, we were becoming a ceiling to potential growth because our infrastructure wouldn't pan out anymore. And so last year we started this process, and I call it a year of retooling, and we kind of grinding through getting into some of the nitty gritty of some of those systems of what we needed to do. And there was a particular source that was introduced to me in a cohort group that I belonged to, and it was an article by Timothy Keller, and he lays out the concept of, depending on what size congregation you are, there has to be certain organizational changes that take place if you're going to move into another or a new size category, similar to what McIntosh shares with us in our course writing. But I loved how practical and succinct Keller's article was, and it has become a framework that we used to develop some goals around our own organizational change. And so this week, first of all, on this post, I'm going to attach that article. And I did so in our discussion thread as well. I know you've got a lot of reading, but if you have some time to pull that up and especially read just the section that applies to your current congregation size, and then maybe what would be the next size of growth for your congregation, and see what insights you gain. Maybe compare it to McIntosh's suggestion. And then later in the week, I'm going to post for you like insight into the goals that we developed based on that framework. We now call those growth zones, those things that Keller introduces as organizational change. And we set annual growth zone goals to help us move some of that forward and and widen that road, so to speak. Strengthen the infrastructure of some of our systems and organizational methods, so that we can hopefully continue to see the kind of growth that we've been experiencing. So later, I'll post for you the practical application of that. And in case you haven't been able to tell about me, I'm really big on practical application. We can live in theoretical land, and academia loves to live in theory, right? Coming up with all these ideas and theories and abstract principles. And there's a place for that. But if we can't put it into practice, if we can't apply it practically, those principles, it doesn't do the church any good. And so my passion, being a guy on the ground, in ministry, in the trenches every day, is saying, yeah, these principles and theories matter. We need to know them, but we also need to connect the dots. So I want to show you how we're doing that here in Pryor. And I'll give you a chart that we use of practically saying, okay, based on these suggestions, this framework, here are the goals that we're going to set for some organizational change. And we actually achieved all of those goals in that particular year. That was our 2016 year. We achieved all of those goals that year that are on that sheet that I'll share with you. So we'll be in touch this week. I hope everyone is doing okay. We continue to pray for our friends in Florida that were impacted by Irma. We'll talk to you later. God bless.